but they carried a really big stick. Given the stick might be 30 minutes away before you could use it, and sometimes an hour, but man, you had a big stick, because if you engaged the enemy, as soon as you transmitted the word prairie fire over the radio, everything flying within range of that team was diverted. Everything. Any aircraft that had ordnance on it, any mission that was going on was set aside. It all came to you. It was unbelievable. I mean, I had a mission one time where I had 14 Cobras in orbit waiting on their turn to come in, because I had to bring them in between the L4s that were coming in and the Sky Raiders that would come. They were all, I mean, it was just unreal, what would show up once you got in trouble.
Yeah, I guess that is the security blanket. Although, bad weather.
Then you're in trouble.
Nighttime?
You could do some at nighttime, but we didn't have the night vision. The aircraft didn't have the technology that they have today, so nighttime was a problem for them. You could do something called combat sky spots, where the L4s could come in and drop 500-pound bombs, but they were doing it based on radar. So you had to start them like 2,500, 3,000 meters away and bring them in, because you didn't know where they were going to land. They would be somewhere, in that circle, but you had to let something hit and then start to work it. So, yeah, the nighttime, could be a problem.
Yeah. You got a book here. You mentioned it really quickly. It's called The Stress Effect, and it's about leadership and decision making. But you have some stories in it that are worth talking about. I want to read one of them right now. So it says, for almost 2 years, I had been training to lead a special operations team into combat. During those 2 years, I had successfully completed U.S. Army Ranger School, Special Forces training, become a member of the most elite military force in the world. When I got to base camp in Vietnam, 1968, I erected a 6-foot-tall 2x4 board in the dirt and wrapped hemp rope around the top 8 inches of the board to provide a striking surface. Every day in camp, I pounded the striking pad with my fists and my feet, continuing to improve my accuracy and power. I had been trained in Ranger and Special Forces hand-to-hand combat and had earned a black belt in the Korean martial art of Taekwondo. I'd become an expert with all special operations weapons as well. I quickly found myself... So you had some introduction to martial arts. Mm-hmm. And they were teaching you guys some striking capability. Did you guys learn any grappling at all?
Yeah, I mean, you did that in Special Forces and in Ranger School. You did, the military version of a hand-to-hand. Mm-hmm. But I had trained in, Taekwondo when I was in college. I broke my hand one night in a little pub, and I thought, there's got to be a better... You broke your
hand on a pub? Or
no.
You broke your hand on a pub attendee.
There was an attendee that ran into my hand and broke it, and I was thinking, there's got to be a better way than this. Mm-hmm. I've seen these guys jumping around doing kung fu or whatever on movies. Yeah. So I found this Taekwondo place, right off campus there, and I went in and I said, I need to toughen up a little bit. Yeah. I'm tired of getting hurt. So, yeah.
Right on. Back to the book. I quickly found myself deep inside enemy territory, leading my elite team of 3 Americans and 4 mercenaries on a classified mission. Every human within 100 miles was the enemy. The temperature was 110 degrees. The humidity was 100%. The salt from our own perspiration constantly burned our eyes. Mosquitoes swarmed. Each of us carried 35 to 40 pounds of ammunition, grenades, and water on our load-bearing harness and a 75-pound rucksack on our back. No one wore an armored vest or a helmet because these would add too much extra weight and would be too hot. We were operating under triple canopy jungle that allowed very little light to come through and no air movement. It rained every day. Everything was wet. The bushes in the ground were covered with small leeches that began to move up and down frantically when they sensed our body heat, thinking they would have a meal soon. They attached themselves to us without our noticing them. The next day we would find them on our faces, chests, arms, and legs filled with blood and being the size of our thumbs. The physical and mental stress was very high. This type of mission required complete silence, no talking for days, just hand and arm signals or notes. There could be absolutely no noise while moving. We were traveling along at a snail's pace of 100 yards an hour. Every step and every foot placement were pre-planned. Toe down first, then slowly the heel. This technique was designed to muffle the noise of any small branches that might be broken if we accidentally placed our weight on them. Each team member had an area of responsibility for maintaining vigilance as we moved. We were always looking for booby traps, ambushes, enemy personnel, poisonous snakes, and tigers. We couldn't forget the 500-pound hungry tigers. We knew a North Vietnamese Army force was very close to us. We just didn't know exactly where. We spent most of the day moving up to the top of a ridge, one step at a time without making a sound. Just as we neared the top, the point man signaled to us to halt and get down. He could hear a large group of enemy soldiers just over the ridge. Our hearts began to race and adrenaline spiked. Our 7-man team was about to come face to face with over 180 trained North Vietnamese Army soldiers. Our stress levels soared and our attention became focused. We knew everything could literally explode at any second. The closest help was an hour away. We could make no mistakes and we could not be discovered. I moved forward into a position to observe the enemy soldiers who were less than 40 yards down the other side of the ridge from our location. They appeared to have finished eating and were getting ready to move up the ridge towards our location. I signaled to the team that we needed to move quickly. Although the ground was muddy, slippery, and steep, we tried to move as quickly and quietly as possible. It was going to be very difficult to avoid contact with them, and contact would be deadly. I was about 20 feet behind the point man, moving deliberately, tightly gripping the handle of my Car-15 machine gun with my right hand while using my left hand to steady myself by grabbing bushes as I moved. It started to rain hard, making it even more difficult to get us help if we were discovered. We could hear the enemy talking on the other side of the ridge. Then, out of nowhere, I was hit so hard from the high side of the ridge that my weapon was knocked out of my hand and my feet left the ground, and I was falling backward down the side of the steep ridge. Instinctively, I grabbed my attacker as I fell and took him with me. My stress level was so high that all my hand-to-hand combat training automatically kicked in. As I tumbled down the incline in the rain and mud, I literally ripped my attacker limb from limb, biting, pulling, and breaking any part I could get my hands on. I used every deadly move I knew and actually heard the sounds of bones breaking. Although the entire event lasted only a few seconds, it appeared to pass in slow motion. A stream of thoughts and questions went through my mind. Where did this guy come from? How did I miss seeing him? Does he have a knife? How can I get my knife? Is he alone? Will he call his comrades before I can silence him? Then it was over as quickly as it began. We were wedged hard against a large tree that stopped our tumble down the ridge. The impact momentarily knocked the breath out of me. The attacker was not moving. Apparently, I was the winner. All my hand-to-hand combat training had paid off. Looking up the ridge, I saw some of my team members looking down at me with sheer horror and shock on their faces. It must have been almost as terrifying for them as it was for me, I thought. Everyone's life hung in the balance, but I had won the fight. Mano a mano. I had saved the team. As I began to untangle myself from my attacker, the world suddenly came back into focus. Now I had the same horror and shock on my face as my team members did. I had just used all my expert hand-to-hand combat techniques on a banana tree. In that part of the world, worms eat around the bottom of the banana trees, which weakens them and causes them to fall without warning. I was lucky enough to be in the right place at the right time and be blindsided by a falling banana tree. Fortunately, two components to this event ultimately saved us. First, I was hit so hard and unexpectedly that my weapon was knocked out of my hand, preventing me from firing at the tree and giving away our position. Second, it was raining so hard that the enemy soldiers did not notice the commotion. We completed our mission and returned to Vietnam unharmed, except for my ego. I have heard, however, that banana trees in that part of the world still tremble at the mention of my name. Good times.
A little embarrassing, but yeah, the stress level was so high. It just, you're locked, loaded, you're ready to go, and something triggers you, and you go for it. You react. It's just, just the instinct. Somebody had me, and it was me or him. And, I just unleashed everything I still had until I killed the banana tree. But, I can walk by one today, even in other countries, and they tremble.
They know.
They know.
The legend is real.
Yeah. You can see the little limbs turn and watch me to make sure I go on by.
Yeah. It is amazing, the point of you telling that story, talking about stress. And I one thing that I noticed about it is when we are anticipating something, oftentimes we will see what we are anticipating.
Yeah.
So when we are predicting enemy combat, then that's what we're going to see. And you have another great vignette in here about a shooting that took place in New York. And it was, a guy that was standing in the stoop of a doorway, and the police officer see him, and he looked kind of suspicious. And eventually, when he moved, they said, oh, he's trying to run from us. So now they draw their weapons, and the next thing he does is reach into his pocket. They start shooting, and once one person starts shooting, they all start shooting, and they end up putting 40-plus rounds into the guy and into the surrounding guy, because they didn't shoot very accurately. But it turns out that the guy was just a normal citizen that fit the description of a person that had conducted some crimes in the area. But it wasn't like a specific description. I think it was I was a black guy in this neighborhood. Oh, looks pretty close. But what they anticipated seeing and what they got kind of mentally ready for, and then he makes a move to get away from them. In their mind, he's making a move to get away from them. In his mind, he's just trying to get out of the way. Who knows what these cops are doing, but they can't be after me. And then the next thing is they're yelling at him, oh, I better get them some ID. So he reaches into his pocket. What do they think he's reaching for? They're anticipating he's reaching for a weapon, so they kill him. So that's a great lesson learned. And, you talk a lot in the book, The Stress Effect, about, you call it awareness, being aware of what's going on. I always use the word detachment, being detached from all the chaos and emotion, and what a great power it is to have that. It's the same word or different word, same meaning, the awareness that you talk about. But that example right there, what you're anticipating, there's a good chance that what you're anticipating you're going to see regardless of what reality is.
Yeah, it's not a banana tree. That's a North Vietnamese soldier, highly trained and skilled, and he's trying to take me out.
Yeah.
And doing a good job because I'm falling backwards. I can't shoot him. And, in the story you're talking about, as they approach him and start shooting, the first two guys that get there, one starts shooting, and what happens is some of the bullets are hitting on different parts of the stoop there and start to ricochet back.
That's right.
In their mind, he's shooting at him. I mean, the bullets are coming back at him. They think he's shooting. The other guy with him trips on the steps and falls. So his partner thinks, man, they hit him. Mm-hmm. He's down. The other two are up there. They think he's down. And, they all just continue to shoot an innocent guy. Mm-hmm. So we see what we're expecting, and you have to be careful with that. And it happens, it happens all the time. Yeah. When the adrenaline starts flowing, you're going to do a lot of things that you need to keep it under control. Mm-hmm. In their ways. Part of it, I'm probably getting off track here, but some of it is practice. Go through the immediate action drills. You keep doing it and doing it and doing it. One of the things I used to make my guys practice that they really didn't like was when we were going on a mission, because you're going to be out there for so long, the 1-0 carried a medical kit. So I'd have a medical kit with me. Everyone there carried, it came in a can back then, just a little can about that big around. Mm-hmm. You had it taped on the back of your web gear. It had a bag of ringer solution in it, a blood expander. Mm-hmm. Because when you get hit, most of the time what you die of from a gunshot wound is you bleed to death. Mm-hmm. You can't get the blood stopped in time. So we all carried a bag of ringer solution, so you could get an IV